Hey there, and welcome to the podcast Tiling Connect, hosted by Mark Moskwa. This show is designed to connect people with the best information intended to strengthen the business of tiling. To keep up to date with all the episodes, don't forget to subscribe.
Today's episode is brought to you by RLA Polymers and Gripset. For peace of mind when waterproofing, trust Gripset's 38FC, the king of membranes. 38FC has been the industry benchmark for years and is rigorously tested internally and through certified NADA laboratories, giving you verified peace of mind. Developed alongside contractors, 38FC has confirmed coverage of 10 square metres per pale and adheres to AS 4858 and AS 4654 compliance. With a quick 1 hour recode time, you can get the job done in record speed without compromising on quality. Don't fall for the copycat products. Trust Gripset's 38FC, the king of membranes. Hey everybody, Mark here from Tiling Connect. Welcome back to the program and welcome back to another episode where we get to talk with excellent and amazing industry rock stars. And today I have another gentleman joining us on the show by the name of Taylor Ryan, who is all the way from the Sunshine Coast in Queensland. G'day, Taylor. How are you?
Good, Mark. How you going? Thanks for having me.
Hey, very good, mate. Thanks for coming on the show. Really excited to learn more about the TilenBreathe products that you are involved in and the dustless tools and the technology around that, and sort of really excited to get to know you a lot better and about the products. So, mate, I think the best place for us to start would be back at the beginning and how TilenBreathe was born and sort of what problem were you seeing on job sites that inspired you to get behind these types of products?
Yeah, well, I mean, it all started off like everything. It was just a backyard job. We were working on a couple of small commercial jobs. We're getting hounded about dustless systems and dustless products that we were trying to use. There wasn't too much out there. The things that were out in the shopping centres and that were getting recommended to us weren't doing enough. And I thought there's got to be a better way out there. So we sort of started to develop our own thing just on site there. And as we sort of gradually got through different jobs and worked out what we needed and what we didn't need, we got to a final sort of prototype, I guess. And that's where my business partner, Warren, come into it. Now, Warren's, he's adjusted everything and we've moved everything millimetre at a time. We've gone through over 50 prototypes on the cut and breathe. We've gone through over 40 of them on the mix and breathe. And it was literally just tweaking little bits and pieces at a time. And there were some times where we tweak, and then we'd have to take a couple of steps back and say, well, we're not going in the right direction again. What are we doing wrong and what do we need to move around? And then eventually it sort of come to light that we got our final product and everything that was working as we needed it to. We couldn't get any more suction that we needed. We were pretty much on point to being able to deliver out to everybody else to use. We were wrapped with it. I had a couple of boys at that stage that were working with me. And those guys, the positive feedback that I got off those, just because it actually worked, we could throw out everything else that didn't work that was out in the market there and solely focus on what we were developing.
Amazing. And I think I've probably glossed over a little bit in the beginning here that you're a tile contractor yourself and
Correct.
You've been on the tools for some time, mate. Just give us a little bit of a look in on how that journey started for you and when you started picking up some tools to start tiling.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was sort of a bit of a broken sort of process for me. A lot of my background was mining. So again, there was exposure to a lot of silica and all that dusty sort of atmosphere that was out there. And then I'd come home on breaks there and I'd spend a couple of days on the tools there, finishing off my apprenticeship. It got to the point where actually I stopped mining and focused on tiling. Sort of felt like that was something that was right up my alley, just with the finishing products and stuff like that. But I also still, in the back of my mind, thought there was an issue in the industry somewhere that could have been targeted, and sort of guess tiled, but then also was looking at those avenues of there was a lot of cracks, there was a lot of room to move, there was a lot of sort of innovation to be done, and I just sort of had to sort of rein it in and work on what it was. And I think hitting the dustless side of things was a massive sort of achievement for us.
Fantastic. Mate, how big's your crew?
I've only got a couple of guys working with me at the moment. I've sort of scaled it back down purely just because we're quite busy with the TilenBreathe stuff now. So I'm still on site. I've got 2 guys that work with me sort of full time, and then I get a couple of contractors in here and there. But yeah, it's mainly just doing the running around now. So we're sort of up and about. We're established enough that I'm sort of driving up to Harvey Bay and delivering. Then we start to post off to those sort of places. It's just not feasible just to drive up there, and then going down to south as the Gold Coast. And then we're going out as far as sort of Roma and Warwick just to go and do deliveries and stuff like that. So my sort of role in that there now is getting the products out. I'm a bit more of the technician side of it. So I'm hands-on with the tiling tools themselves. I know how they work. I use the grinders on a day-to-day basis. So to be able to show people and do demos, that's a massive thing. Those contractors and the tilers, even the builders, they want to see that the product works. So it's a big thing for them to have it on site there, to be able to feel the product, to see how light it is, how versatile, and then you can just tuck it under your arm and walk up 7 flights of stairs and having to lug around something really heavy.
Exactly. I've obviously lived a fairly long career when it comes to selling building products, and I certainly feel your sentiment when you talk about demonstrating products and showing people how they actually operate and function. It's such a big part of teaching people how things work, but also engaging with people so that they understand your ultimate goal and what you're trying to achieve for the industry simply by developing a product that can help protect workers.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Wow. Well, mate, look, silica dust is a silent killer in our industry. What would you say most contractors don't fully understand about the long-term risks of this product?
Yeah.
Of this danger, I should say.
Yeah. Right. It's a bit of an iffy one, because more and more nowadays we're hearing that silicosis is the new asbestos. I don't know how we can relate to something like that there, because asbestos is pretty nasty stuff. But we're looking at products that are getting the silica out. So if you're looking at products and materials that are winding down the silica content in there, it's a big issue. I guess what people don't understand is that just because you're grinding outside or you're being dusty outside doesn't mean that you're escaping the silicosis or the silica. You could be you're damaging your work colleagues, you're still damaging your next door neighbours. Kids are a big thing. You get parked out the back there from a builder and you hear the kids in the background playing around in your backyard, and you're sitting there with a grinder and you're making a big dust ball and it's just flowing straight over the fence there. You might be safe, but it's harming everybody else. So just because it's outside doesn't mean it's any better.
Exactly. Interesting point that you make. I'm not sure if you saw the mainstream media news the other day, but there was a clip of a guy or 2 guys on a front driveway diamond sawing with a 20-inch diamond blade front driveway. I know that I've just repeated myself there, but anyway. And there was just this plume of dust that was coming up. It was in the middle of the day, and another tradies driven past, and he's wound his window down, and he's just screaming at these guys, going, "Don't you understand that you're cutting a product that's creating silica dust?" And it's just everywhere at the front of this house. Like it was like there was a fire. That's how much dust there was in the air. And these guys had no protection on apart from their PPE. They had no face masks, no coverings, and they had no regard for what was going on in their environment. So you would assume that they don't know about silica dust, but you would think also, hang on a second, there's been a fair amount of advertising out there about the risks of doing this sort of work. So it was incredible.
Funnily enough, that's a similar sort of story that we heard on a job site the other day. There was a bunch of brickies out there, and there was a guy that was cutting some natural stone, and the natural stone in the silica, there was not a great deal of silica content in there, and the brickies were looking over at these stone layers, and they ended up coming over and having a yarn to him and said, "Mate, like, can you go around the other side of the house and cut your stone? Like, it's hurting my throat." And then the stonemason walked around the corner there, and the bricklayers are cutting these blocks with no water suppression. There's a big cloud of dust. You can't see them all. And then they walk through with a ciggy in their mouth.
Jesus.
Yeah.
clearly the messaging isn't loud enough.
Oh, mate. Yeah. Yeah.
Taylor, walk us through TilenBreathe in action. What makes it a genuine game changer compared to how tilers usually cut on site?
For us, using it on site there, we can park up into a bedroom or a lounge room, and we can work in all the elements. You know, it can be pouring down with rain outside there, and you can still be cutting your tiles and widening your tiles inside and moving on. You've got nobody else in the job site because it's too wet, and yet the tilers are still on site plugging along. So in that sense, it's moving the job along, but it's also keeping you making your money. That's a big thing for what we've noticed, and that's a lot of the, I guess the positive comments that we've had is we've had rain for the last 2 weeks, but we've still been inside. We've still been cutting and doing all the miters. If it hadn't have been for the TilenBreathe, we would have had to call up for a week. So now we're not making any money. So that sense is a game changer. The safety side of it as well, it's not only looking after yourself or your workers that you've got working there, it's the other guys on site, your other trades. They've been exposed to stuff like this here that they might not have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, like your plumbers and sparkies, painters. But then when you're grinding somewhere around the house or around the unit, you've got the wind blowing it back inside. And even though you're away from the property, you might be still exposing all the people there. You've got clients coming to site, you've got designers, architects, and again, like I touched base before, you've got families next door to you as well. So, I mean, you're not just hitting one person with potential silica damage. It's a whole range of people out there. So, yeah, there's so many benefits to it. Like, there really is. You know, you can just keep rattling things off, and we're finding that more and more people are finding different uses for it as well. We're primarily using it for tiling, but there's other uses out there for it.
Yeah, awesome, mate. When the product was being designed, developed, and from a conceptual stage, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced turning the actual idea itself into a physical product where obviously it works on real life jobs?
Airflow. That was our biggest challenge, was airflow, and how we can maximize airflow to be able to use a decent sized tile. So, I mean, we use a lot of 600 by 600 tiles. We use a lot of 12 by 6s, a lot of 900 by 900s. So they're awkward sized tiles themselves. A lot of people steer away from using dusted systems, whether it be grinder guards, different machines and stuff like that there, because it's just a bit too awkward. So our biggest factor was making sure that we've got plenty of suction, that we can cut at least 600 mil of a tile and still have an even amount of suction coming through there. For instance, if we're using like a 1200 by 600 tile, you can still cut the length of the tile down there, and you can cut about 650 mil up the 1200 tile, and then you just got to slide your tile back. So you slide your tile back, so you're essentially getting that cut or that miter done in 2 cuts, but you're also being dusted with it as well. I guess the funding for it as well, like, it's all good having an idea, but when it starts to come down to these nitty-gritty bits and pieces, you sort of forget about how much everything costs, and it's the organisation as well. Like, you're on a job site for maybe 8 to 12 hours a day. You've got to try and find time in between then and there to be able to talk to different suppliers about materials, getting on sites to be able to show this product off. And then it's making it as well. Like, you've got to be able to find someone who's willing to make these molds up or bend this steel or aluminium to be able to make this product. And then the backwards and forwards going on with that there it's crazy. Like, there's emails coming out of your ears. So you don't realize all this stuff here until you've got 17 different people asking little bits and pieces about this machinery here. And then all of a sudden you've got to try and piece all that together and make that work and still have your suction in line there. And then you've got to work out your costings to make sure that it's suitable for everybody to buy. It's suitable to be able to be used on various workbenches and work platforms, different vacuums. So it wasn't just a matter of just making the cut and breathe itself. It was servicing everybody that needs to use it. So that was the most difficult thing. And we just overlooked that massively. But you've just sort of got to take a couple of steps forwards and then a couple of steps back to realize, okay, so we need to branch off this way here and we need to go down that avenue before we take that next further sort of step forwards, I guess. But yeah, it is a massive one. It keeps you up at night. There's always something you can change. There's always something you can tweak. It doesn't necessarily work. And I guess that's where the frustrating thing comes into designing and inventing something like this here is the best idea you've got, you can be sitting there laying in bed and you've got this idea in place, but making that happen is another kettle of fish. The different molding machines, the phone calls you've got to make, and trying to be able to explain that to somebody who has no idea, what a tiling trade does in general, but then to say, we want a dustless system and this is what we need, and then trying to convert that from a 3D image or a design on plan and show that to somebody is just another level of difficulty.
Mm. Yeah, mate, I have a similar familiarity with going out and doing something on your own. And I use this podcast as a classic example. And a lot of people probably don't know this. I know that one of my past guests has said to me, you need to do a man behind the mic episode about the person doing the podcast. And I started this about 3.5 years ago. And there's very little funding that comes in for this podcast, but there's a lot of outlay in terms of setting it up and doing it all. And so it's a bit of a labor of love, right? And the role of inventor and entrepreneur is one that you wear on top of everything else that you have to do in life. So you've still got your business operating during the day. You've still got family at home. You're sort of trying to balance all of the balls to ensure that none of them fall on the ground. And at the same time, you've got this brilliant idea about TilenBreathe and dustless tools. So I can feel how time feels like it just slips away very quickly, and you're trying to get things done as best you can. So good on you, mate. Good on you for doing it. It's pretty awesome.
Oh, that's massive, man. Yeah, I mean, everybody sort of says, oh, congratulations, or they sit there and say you're lucky for having such a good product, but it's not luck and it's not a congratulations. There's a lot of hard yakka that goes behind it. Like you say, there's a lot of man hours that nobody ever sees. The amount of times we've been up to 2-3 o'clock in the morning through the weekdays, and then you get a couple of hours sleep and you've got to go and run a crew of guys the next day there, and you've got to be on the point, on ball with everything else that you've got currently going on in your normal business, because at this stage, it's just a vision. It's not actually come to life yet. So you're still working on that there, but you don't have time. You don't have 24 hours is not really enough time to be able to get this up and going. Like I said, this product has been in the making for the last 3.5 years, and that's how long it's taken to get this from start to finish. So you think of all the man hours that goes into that there, and it doesn't just stop on the weekdays. You're still thinking and still working on the weekends. You're working on your holidays. You're working away. So it's very hard yakka, and you take your hat off to anybody that brings into another product, whether it's in the trade industry or on the supermarket shelves, because it's an idea, but there's been a lot of work that goes in behind it.
Beautiful, beautiful, mate. A quick word from our sponsor. Partner with Gripset and become one of Australia's leading waterproofers. Waterproofing is one of the most in-demand trades. With Gripset's accredited practitioner program, GAP, you'll be trained and certified in just 3 days. Backed by Australia's leading waterproofing supplies manufacturer and run by trainers with over 20 years of experience in the industry, GAP gives you a wealth of knowledge. Learn how to identify and prevent dampness and water damage in both residential and commercial structures by exploring the current Australian waterproofing standards, correct preparation of substrates for waterproofing, and how to apply both sheet and liquid membranes with a particular focus on the trickier areas such as joints and penetrations. Upon completion, you will be a fully accredited GAP applicator and will be able to access exclusive benefits and free business advertising to expand your clientele. Spots are filling up fast. Upskill today, visit gripset.com/gap. That's gripset.com/gap, where great applicators get even better. So tell me, you didn't mention before, and I may not have asked, whereabouts is the TilenBreathe products made? Where are they manufactured?
Yeah, so it was exciting. We really tried to keep it Australian made. We've managed to do that. So currently we're getting all that made down. So our cut and breathe and our mix and breathe, they're both made down in Sydney. We've got a warehouse down there as well, so they get distributed straight out to there. And then we've got a warehouse which we sit all our stock in there at the moment. We're currently looking at the moment to get our stock back up onto the sunny coast as well, just because of the influx that's taken off through here. It's just a little bit easy trying to get it from Sydney to here and then all around the northern end of Queensland. So he's done a lot of background work onto that there. So we're sort of in that little transition period at the moment. We've still got stock down in Sydney, but it is slowly starting to move up in sort of big doses up onto the sunny coast here. So, yeah, big thing is Australian made. We know that a lot of people want to back the Australian made. It's hard to do Australian made, but the comments about having Australian made there, and some people only buy it because it's Australian made. If it had been made from Taiwan or China, the chances of it being sold, 50-50.
Mm. Yeah, and you're also competing against a very competitive labour market, materials market, and it just, I hear that. Like, it's very difficult to compete in that realm. And yeah, look, I think being Australian, we all want to support our country. We'd love to see manufacturing come back in a big way. Hopefully that may happen, but the chances are very slim. But if we keep pushing that agenda, surely more people will have a go.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, we can definitely get done much cheaper overseas there, but it comes down to we wanted a product that was going to be suitable for tradies to be able to hoof around. You know, if it gets thrown in the back of the ute or the back of the trailer, it's not just going to explode into a million pieces because it's made of flimsy plastic or aluminium that bends too easy or something like that. We've gone down that avenue of extensive research to have a look at the materials on what we're using there as well to make sure that they're up to the Australian standard of durability as well. In one of our clips that we've just recently done, we've just driven over the Mix and Breathe just to show how durable and how tough it is, and we've driven over with a car. You know, it hasn't done anything; it's just put a couple of scratches on it. Nice. So it's one of those things. Keeping the market going in Australia, it is tough, but I think having that solid Australian-made sticker on there is unreal. It's a great feeling to be able to know that it was built in the backyard as well. Because I mean, a lot of people dish off work overseas there before they even look into the backyard, and yeah, keeping it in here, it's keeping a lot of those jobs rolling along there as well, which is good.
Have you seen any like real world results or contractor stories recently where using TilenBreathe has really that has resonated with you?
Yeah, I mean, outside of the comments and the emails that we get, there's always plenty of good feedback. We're just clicking on them and just having a quick scour over what the emails say, and it's just a game changer. The game changer is the biggest email that we get, or the comments that we get. It's a game changer to being on site there. I think it's hitting the older boys, the older generation that used to work in the trade industry. They've worked in there for so long that they've found little nooks and crannies where they can shave a bit of time off here and shave a bit of time off there. They've got all these tricks and tips to everything there, but there's nothing for the dust or the silica. You know, using a vacuum's all good, but you're not catching like just the vacuum itself with the hose. You see some of the setups that are going on there, and there's like sticky tape everywhere or gaffer tape, and it's sort of just like, what is happening here? But the big thing was the other day, we had a couple of weeks ago, this commercial tiler, he came in and very skeptical on using it. Obviously, as he mentioned that he spent a lot of money on different products that didn't work, and he's getting sort of pulled around either way from different inspectors and builders and just safety guys in general. And his big thing was they're pushing for the water cutting at the moment, really, really hard. But then outside of the water cutting, they're sort of overseeing the fact that there's water going everywhere because of all these overflow buckets and sludge buckets. They're just getting so full that there's not enough. Well, they reckon there's not enough time to just keep taking all this water downstairs because it's spilling down the stairs on the way through. Everything's getting soaking wet. But that's not the issue. The issue is not being able to lay the tiles. So the game changer for this fella was he went into his little commercial site and asked the guys that were running the show, can we use this? They went and had a demo. They said, yeah, use it. So he went and bought a couple more of these things, and he ended up taking all of his wet saws off site. The amount of time that he saved from not wet sawing and remarking tiles because his pencil lines or his pen lines were getting rubbed out from the water cutting, having to dry out. He was running different fans. He was running 3 or 4 different fans to try and dry the tiles out so he could back out of the backs of the tiles. He was just explaining that to me, and it sounded like such a mission. And you just thought about it afterwards, and you thought, what's the point of even tiling? Like that sort of job and that capacity, why even bother? There's so much stress involved in there just to cut the tile. You don't need it. It's hard enough being on a job site as it is than to add an element like that there. And I get that it's good in a lot of aspects. I still water some of my stone and stuff like that there just because you get better finishes in it. Especially those thick tiles, you can't cut them with a grinder. You just burn your grinders out too much. But these guys here, they were just over the moon that they could actually cut a tile. They could just plonk it straight on the bench, nip it up, go and do what they need to do, polish it, miter it, and then they're back over there setting up their tiles, putting up their nib walls with all their miters cut. They didn't have to let everything dry. There's nobody walking past, kicking all their tiles by accident, chipping all their miters. So to hear something like that there, you get the positive feedback all the time about how good it is. But to hear it working on a job site like that there from a guy who's in high pressure situations all the time, that is trying to push for the product to be used more and more on not only his job sites, but he's got a lot of contractors that work for him as well that go and do their own jobs. And he's now recommending the products to those contractors as well. So it just goes to show to us that just because I've designed it or we've designed it, the guys that I know that are using it, stoked and over the moon with it, there's people out there that have just got real world positivity about the cut and breathe and the mix and breathe. And they're letting us know, which is great because unfortunately, any sort of product, regardless to how good it is or how long it's been on the market for, you never hear about how good something is. It's always the negative comments and you always get the backlash of the negative stuff. So for instance, you're reading along and you want to buy a TV or something like that and you want to get a review on that, and you only see the negative stuff. You never hear about any of the good stuff. They could have sold 1 million TVs with great reviews on there. It's the same as us. You're getting all these positive feedbacks, but we don't want to be sitting there promoting the fact that there's an issue out there, but we're trying to be the solution for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that was beautifully put, mate. I couldn't have thought of a better example, and I'm sure there's plenty of people out there on job sites that are in similar situations. So I'm sure they're definitely post us and listening to this chat. I'm sure they're going to be tapping away on their phones or on the computer to get a bit more information about TilenBreathe to explore what options are out there, right? Look, when we talk about young apprentices and people getting into the trade and them thinking about what they do and don't need for preparing themselves for what they're about to embark on, what habits do you think that they need to have around dust, safety and professionalism, which are important to be doing from day one?
I mean, safety is always the key, right? Our products have got the safety features behind it. But I think from an apprentice's perspective, I think having a voice is a massive thing. Coming on site there, if you're a 16, 17-year-old starting your apprenticeship, you don't know about silicosis. You don't know about issues. It's not only the silicosis, it's the dust issue as well. I mean, you take out the silica in the product, but there's still dust around you. That dust is no good for you either. So you've got two main massive issues there. I think it's the awareness around it. So if you're seeing something that's not right, regardless to who you're talking to, whether you're talking to somebody 2 years older than you or 22 years older than you, is asking the questions around you. Doing the research. I mean, everything's on the internet nowadays. When we were doing our apprenticeships, nothing was really accessible. It was all on paper and booklets and magazines and stuff. So to be able to just tap in to your iPad or your iPhone about dust systems, safety gear, it's massive. Everything just pops up on Google. So getting the questions around it, if you've got a question about a product, either going to local store reps or just either like emailing directly. I mean, our phone numbers are all over the page there, so you can call us, email us, do whatever. I'm always on the phone explaining and I had a chat with a fella not so long ago, actually, and this is a good example. He had just started his apprenticeship, wanted to buy a cut and breathe. He was working with a couple of older guys. They didn't believe in dustless stuff. They weren't using grinder guards, barely used glasses. And I was sort of just shaking my head on the phone. I'm just thinking, mate, like, the guys that I have working with me, that's the main things that I'm sitting there harping on about. And if they can't listen to it, then they're out the door because it's a massive safety issue. So glasses and the dust extraction's a massive thing for me. And then to have grinder guards on there too, you just have to do it. You can't skimp over those things because it can go bad really quickly. So for the apprentice to ask questions about it, and even if he's asking the question to an older tradie that sort of doesn't support the cut and breathe, that's fine. But he's got to worry about everybody else that's on the side as well. So you can't just sit there and just put your head in the sand and say, well, I've done this for the last 30 years. I'm not changing my ways. Well, it's not good and fine, but it is. Yeah, that's your opinion on what you want to do and how it should be done. But everything moves on. Everything sort of grows. Everything moves forward quite quickly. You got to give the young fellas a chance to experiment with stuff like that there. And if they want to use the cut and breathe on site, if it takes them another 2 minutes to go and set it up, let them set it up. And if you don't want to use it, well, so be it. Use the other side of the trestle. Let your apprentice use it, because they'll soon find out how bad the silica is and the dust is. I mean, you only have to woof it in for 2 seconds and instantly it's like you put your wasabi or mustard and you sort of fling back and you think, oh, I need to get out of here because it's just no good. Ask the questions. That's the main thing, I think, is getting, and the more awareness you get around there as well, the better. Because what we're finding is a lot more people are talking about silicosis, silica dust in general, especially with products and materials. So communication is the biggest thing, isn't it? It's not just demoing and showing people how the product works. It's everybody talking about how the issue arises. Because most of the time is you hear somebody using it and then somebody goes, oh, I'm going to go and buy one of those because their mate's been talking about it. I've heard it on a job site. So it's always registering. The brain works in a funny way. So, yeah, communication, mate, I think is the biggest thing for an apprentice and just sussing out your information. You're not silly for trying to find a better way or a better solution or a safer option. The safer option is the biggest thing, and I'm all for the safer option.
Awesome, mate. Yeah, communication, ask questions, get educated, become a master of learning, all of those things that can make them an amazing contractor.
Yeah,
absolutely. I think when we look at something like what you've done with the innovation behind TilenBreathe and Cut and Breathe, and it's clearly changing the landscape today, and no, undoubtedly it'll change the landscape into the future when we talk about tiling and tiling on site. What does the future look like for you guys in terms of growth and development as a business and the products? What's happening the next 5 or so years?
Yeah, we're sticking to we're just doing a year by year plan at the moment. We're not trying to get too far ahead because, I mean, you can get a 5-year plan and be miles away and you're not achieving any goals. So we've sat down, we've had a lot of talks about this. We're just going by year. And what we want to do is we want to hit the Australian market. We were going to touch on to the New Zealand market around about the middle of this year here. The New Zealand market's sort of taken off. They've cottoned on to what's going on over here, and we're actually selling quite a lot over to New Zealand, which is great. So, I mean, in that aspect, we're hitting those targets earlier than what we want, which is great because there's nothing worse than setting yourself a target and reaching that target, and then you're bummed on the idea and you think, oh, well, that's not working. And then all of a sudden you're just having a rough period on we're not making any targets. But it's not the case. You just set the bar too high. So we're just sort of setting the bar in little increments. We do want to get over to the UK at some stage. I mean, you think of the UK, it's wet and miserable over there all the time. All the trades are working inside, or if they're outside, they've already got ponchos and they've got tents and awnings and all sorts of stuff set up. So the cut and breathe and the mix and breathe would be an ideal scenario to get over to the UK there and to be doing all that stuff inside, because that's what we're promoting here. We're promoting that you can cut inside and it's safe enough to do inside there. It's long as you're in a ventilated room. If you're locking yourself up, different story. You don't want to be doing that anyway because you're restricting airflow as it is. So yeah, the UK is definitely on the hit list. I think again we're getting a little bit further away from what we want to do here, but we're doing a sort of go maybe to the United States or Qatar or something like that there, just because of how much work and the volume of work that's going over there. But I think our next step is really nailing the Australian market and making sure we're getting good results out of that there to be able to take over to New Zealand a bit more and then use those stats to be able to get over to somewhere like the UK and say, right, this is how much success we're having in Australia in the first 2 years. We're bringing this product over here and we want it to take off over there as well. I mean, we've had a bunch of guys buy from the UK at the moment. I think we've had about 15 guys buy from the UK.
Yeah, nice.
So it's already taking off and it's going over there. And we've only been selling since COVID last year.
Yeah.
So it's really exciting to see it really taking off. But again, we're sort of just trying to keep quite level on where we are. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves and get a bunch of these guys buying bits and pieces to go to the UK, and then we jump a bit too early and it's not as much of a success as what we want it to be. So we want to look after the background first. We want to look after Australia, New Zealand, get those guys safe, get them using on site there, because there's a lot of stuff coming up. We've got the Olympics in Australia in a couple of years' time. So we've got a trade shortage as it is. There's only going to be a matter of time before they get that influx of new trades. So touching base on new apprentices and stuff like that, it's a great way for them to be exposed to the TilenBreathe and the TilenBreathe, because you think of how much commercial stuff's going on, and the commercial safety side of things is crazy. It's so tight. So UK I think is on the radar for the next one, but like I said, that'll be probably another 2 or 3 years.
Fantastic, mate. Some excellent growth plans there. And as we wrap up the show today, if the audience and the community want to get in touch with yourself and have a chat and or find out more about TilenBreathe and Cut and Breathe, the products, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you and find out more about the products?
Yeah, so we've got an Instagram page which is up and going. That's just regularly going through the motions with different photos, videos, clips on how we're doing things. It's got all our website details on there. It's got all our links and stuff on there as well. Or if you don't have Instagram or Facebook, you can jump onto the internet and type in tilenbreathe.com.au, and that'll come up pretty much straight away in Google there. You just click on the website and then just follow the prompts through there. We've got a drop-down bar you can have a look at and suss out what you want to do, and then we've got our contact details down the bottom there. So just send us an email, and we're getting back to everybody quite quickly. I mean, going back to the very start of the conversation, that's sort of my role is at the moment is taking a lot of the phone calls, messages, inquiries about what's going on. So if you've got any questions or queries about it, send us an email and we'll get back to you as soon as we can with the relevant information that we can give you.
Beautiful. Taylor, that's awesome, mate. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. It sounds like an amazing product. Obviously, I haven't seen it firsthand yet, so I can't wait to check it out on a job site. I know quite a few of the boys on the north side of Brisbane here, so hopefully the lads will be listening to this episode when it goes live, and if they haven't already purchased one, they grab one, because I know that they're working with those sorts of products, and safety is paramount. It's not just about purchasing something, but it's also about the safety aspect of keeping everyone safe on site, including themselves. So it'd be good to get out and check it out. So again, mate, thank you. Until next time, stay connected, and we'll put everything in the show notes for the community post today's chat.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Thanks for having me here.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Tiling Connect. Don't forget to rate and review this podcast. To see more of Tiling Connect, jump on our socials and follow us via LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. If you'd like to be part of the show, email us at tilingconnect@gmail.com. Until next time, stay connected.